From the stadium in Old Trafford to the rest of the world, glory, glory, Man United. The chants ring loud and clear. And today, in honor of Manchester United, I stand here celebratorily saying congratulations to every Manchester United fan. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Central. That's why I ordered actually. Now I'm done.
Nice one. I mean,
that was a solid.
You deserve it.
I like it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think it resonated with
the champions.
Only those who understand what the true red means are the ones who won, not like the other guys on 2 days ago.
Who
were giving speech like Nick Fury and telling you, trust us, you can do it, and then they top 3-1.
They were dreaming. It reminds me of the World Cup France '98, Okocha versus Denmark. Nigeria beat Spain. We were so confident we were going to beat Denmark and make it to the quarterfinal. We had not even played Denmark. We were talking about Brazil, and then we got humbled. So imagine. It's always good to take it one step at a time.
And does that mean that Erling Haaland's statement saying "be humble"?
I mean, that was the beginning of
the precursor to what happened
to the downfall.
Well,
but
we have no need to be humble.
Friday, it's a good morning. So many things happening around the world.
Yeah.
As you can see, and when my bishop caller, this is given in honor of the new Pope. I'm holier than thou. And I'm also the make that I inherit the earth. We have a new Pope, I think. Yeah.
Pope Louis XIV. Congratulations to all Catholic faithfuls around the world as we celebrate. Officially, the White Smoke has announced that there is the new Pope Louis XIV. He has taken that as his name, and from here onward, we'll move on to newer or different, better heights in the Catholic faith. He's the first American Pope.
By the way. Yeah. By the way, is he related to a director of news, Mr. Louis? Just wanted to know.
You are dry. Leo the 14th.
Yeah, but don't forget, he's just
Louis the 14th is
69 years
emperor in France.
Yeah, 69 years of age. I also heard he's a mathematician. You know, he's very good. He has a degree in that aspect as well. But then again, it's good news all the way from.
Pope Francis, they appointed him cardinal. Yeah, actually, 80% of the conclave, the cardinals that make up the conclave, were appointed by Pope Francis. So we won't see a full departure from his papacy.
Just to mention a little bit about him, he is a 69-year-old, like Edro mentioned. He's from Chicago. He's a leader with global experience, spent much of his career as a missionary in South America, and holds dual citizenship in the U.S. and Peru, where he served as a bishop. He most recently had a powerful Vatican office. He led a powerful Vatican office for bishop appointments, and is expected to build on Pope Francis's reforms. We are, of course, very excited as he steps into his role as the 267th Pope on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica on Thursday evening, addressing crowds of cheering Catholics with the words, "Peace be with you all." I mean, if you go online, you will see several pictures of him before his papacy. So we are praying for him, and we hope that he has a very successful term, a successful time leading the Catholic Church. His name, of course, his original name is Robert Francis. So we look forward to seeing Pope Leo XIV doing the Lord's work.
We wish him well. And by the way, did you guys see what was trending yesterday? NTA on Twitter. NTA handler posted, was making the announcement of the appointment of the new Pope. You need to check the quality of that picture.
Oh, I saw that.
I mean, it was ridiculous. So all pictures circulated.
But then again, I also want to blame Benga, let's be honest, even Nigerians. The way we tweet, we need to.
Our NTA in Nigeria.
Yes. Oh, okay. But it was. Somebody said, did they use beavers to take the picture?
I don't understand why they are doing that. I don't understand why.
Maybe they've changed it.
Okay, they've changed it. While you guys are talking about that, let me quickly move. Let me move to DK Simba. You understand? Did you guys see? DK Simba. I had to sing this morning.
So you give Flavor a run for his money.
I'm planning to.
Are you sure this is your true calling?
I don't think so.
To be honest, it is not.
What's the real
by the time I start moving, but let's keep it.
Nature, don't go make it happen.
Yeah, give us DK Simba.
The new DK Simba one of Nigeria. President Bola Tinubu yesterday was, was given the title.
Literally, another feather to
yes. And that DK Simba simply means a strong man from another land, And, while they were putting the cap 1, 2, and all that. And I was thinking the cap will have the logo, but, not yet. Maybe later. I'm sure I trust the president. He's a stylish guy. He's going to put the logo, add the feather to the cap. But it was good to see it. He was at Anambra State, and there you go. That's the picture.
Oh, well, he has it. I mean,
there'll be a new one. The new one they put on his head. This is the branding, but the new one. I don't know if we have the audio. We can listen to it a bit. I liked the conversation.
3 times. I'm going to put it around your neck. First time, second time, and the 3rd time. I will name it. And I'm going to count in Igbo. Ofu, Igwa. Should I go ahead?
Why were they singing Yoruba when he was in an Igbo land? They should have been singing.
Or it have got flavor to, give. But anyway, just to go to.
Can they do something about public announcement systems in public?
The way they sound, the audio quality.
The audio quality is.
Anyway, the governor of Anambra State, Governor Chukwuma Charles Soludo, had put out a tweet and he said, "Honored to welcome official BAT to Anambra State. We're excited to unveil the government house, mini city and solution fund city, symbols of our audacious dreams for a new Anambra. These projects showcase our commitment to transforming our state into a hub of enterprise, knowledge and leisure. Grateful for President Tinubu's presence and support. Let's build a brighter future for Anambra and Nigeria." And of course, if you go through that, Nigerians were commenting. I wish there was what Nigerians are saying. That's probably what we would have taken. And on the face of it, people look at it like, okay, it's cute.
No, it's
but
cute.
then the underlying, the conversations we're seeing are people starting to dig into what the underlying symbolism of this action is, especially because Peter Obi is the former governor of Anambra State. Anambra State is his stronghold. So saying that the current governor, who is from Abga, is in a way endorsing, and Abga has now outrightly endorsed President Bola Tinubu, which is what we've been seeing happening in different states. Again, whilst they are not defecting, they are endorsing. So it's either hurricane defection or hurricane endorsement that is moving around the country.
It's not yet 2 years of this administration. Why are they in such a rush to endorse? What have they seen that they think he deserves a second term? That would always be my question.
There's a lot they've seen. They're going to mention the fact that a lot of state governors are now receiving more money from the federal allocation. There's also going to be so much. But anyway, reactions have also come out of this one. While we congratulate the president and say, well done, don't forget that a cross-section of Nigerians from the southeast had heavily criticized the president for not visiting, the southeast. Yes. They said, oh, he has never come and so on. But what they did, they said that because there's insecurity, so on. But there was standstill yesterday. There were no vehicular movements yesterday in Anambra. Everybody was to, stay off from the roads. That was a precaution to ensure that security was put in place. The president did arrive, and he also gave a speech. I don't know if we have the audio as well. We could listen to the speech while he was commissioning.
And Governor Dakpo Abiodun.
Oh yes.
In the background. I wonder what's in it.
The president also said, I mean, they could go ahead and give him a land. He would love to live there. It will be his retirement home, and so on. I think this is a good move, if you ask me, and I'll tell you why I say it's a good move. I think it goes ahead to unify and quench, or let me use the word quench, all that statements of the president doesn't care about the Southeast. He has not visited. The president is not always available. This and this and that. He's done that now. I mean, and he's also going ahead to show.
Was this really about visiting the Southeast, or was this just about consolidating a political future?
I would say whichever way.
And other people don't seem to agree. Yeah. I'm looking at their comments here, and the reactions to this action. They're saying what federal projects have been done in Anambra State. How important is this project that you have to bring in the president? What did Peter Obi ever do to you again? Peter Obi feels like that bone in people's throats.
Why is Peter Obi coming up in the conversation?
Because they say that it feels like the governor is trying to spite Peter Obi.
He's going to do that. It's normal. He's not. I
think people are making out of a molehill. The governor and the president don't belong to the same party. He's free to invite the president to inaugurate projects as he deems fit. Mr. Peter Obi doesn't own Anambra State. I mean, anybody is free to go about their business. And if you ask a cross-section of Anambrans, I saw a banner there that said, India Anambra loves President Bola Tinubu.
That's it.
We saw people came out in their hundreds yesterday to support the president. So if people have any growls or any reservations, they should wait to election day on 26th.
They say that.
Period. I mean, people are always entitled.
No, people always talk anyway.
So I'm not just concerned about people in general. I'm concerned about the Anambra people and how Anambra people particularly feel
these people
about it.
They are not Anambra. They are not Anambra.
We would ask the people in Anambra State, do you have any reservations about this? No, you can tweet at us. You can tweet at News Central TV. You can tweet at us individually. Benga Borough, Olive MOD, Johansson. Do you have any reservations? What are your thoughts about the fact that the president was invited to Anambra State to commission these projects as well as to be conferred a chieftaincy title? Are you excited about it, or are you not excited about it? Let's get to hear from the Anambra people. The rest of us that are not, we're not directly involved, so maybe we can hold our thoughts. But at the end of the day, what I think, what I'm saying, it's a political move. It's a strategic move for 2027. The Igbo people have been complaining about being marginalized. The Igbo have asked to have a president, an Igbo president. It is why the Asaba Accord happened, where these governors had come together to agree that they would throw their support behind a South-South governor. It's why part of the anger they have against Ifeanyi Okowa, having shown his support to Atiku, which is in a way betrayed the Asaba Accord. And I know that this is going to spark conversations about when Igbo people will come together and support one another and support each other and be like, you know what, we are deserving of having a president in this country as well. But then again, like we said, Igbo Anambra people, let us know your thoughts about it. Do you think that this is a laudable achievement? Do you again believe that this is a fast way to increase development in Anambra State because the state is now connected to the center? Everybody wants to be connected to the center.
Yes, to the central level system. Even Governor Eno in Akwa Ibom State is also trying to plug in after giving his endorsement. The way we are seeing things these days, most things, you can't do things innocently. They have to be seen through a political lens.
Honestly, everything now has to be viewed by a political lens. But moving away from Peter Obi and the conversation about this being a subtle sort of rivalry between Chukwuma Soludo and Peter Obi. Peter Obi's name has come up again. You will not allow that man rest. If this myth,
even using him as an example.
As in every time. I feel like so there's a myth in Nigeria
is it the
that people call your name
or the president, because it's getting the same type of attack.
It's a lot. There's a myth in Nigeria that if people call your name, if they're discussing about you somewhere, you'll be sneezing. If that were true, I feel like Peter Obi will be sneezing per second because his name keeps coming up in conversations politically and otherwise. This time around, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio has slammed Peter Obi over the past hero-filled comment. We're going to play the video for you, and then when we come back, we'll share our thoughts on this. Let's take a look.
And yet, when somebody makes a statement that the labors of our heroes pass, are in vain. I beg to disagree. Let our brother Peter Obi show leadership like Edwin Clark did by resolving first the crisis in the Labour Party. For a man who wants to run Nigeria, you have one of the smallest parties in Nigeria, and you cannot even resolve the crisis in that Labour Party. Is it the crisis of Boko Haram that you will come and resolve in Nigeria? I would like us to be known for what we did when we had the opportunities.
Your Excellencies, and our dear Father, General Gowon, Your Excellency, and my dear elder brother, Jonathan, let me respectfully stand on all due and existing protocols. Where do we start talking of our dear Father, Clark? For someone like who had just been part of this 2023 election, he lived a life of courage, a life of sacrifice, a life of justice, a life that is valued, but most importantly, he's continued living that life to the end. I listened to my brother Mike when he talked about, may the labor of our heroes past not be in vain. I'm sorry, I'm happy that Jide Ojo is here, and I'm happy that Jonathan is here. But I can tell you, their sacrifice is big. They've sacrificed for nothing. We're in this country when people were protesting, when there was no need to protest. Under Jonathan, where are those protesters? Have they died? Where are they? So when we say it should not be in vain, they then increase fuel from 8 to 7 naira to 120, and people were protesting in this country. And when it was 900, they were not protesting. Are they there? So why are we saying it should not be in vain? People protested when naira was 180, and when it was 1,500, they not protested.
Again, this comes back to the conversation about demarketing Nigeria or defamation. I would always say that the defense to defamation is truth. What is the labor of our heroes past? I'm going to give a few examples. First example will be the June 12, 1993 elections that we consider as Nigeria's freest and fairest election. Unfortunately, Moshood Abiola, his legacy, having had to fight through the elections, and all the people who were part of that story today cannot look at the quality of our elections and say that the elections we had in 2023, which is the most recent general elections, can hold a candle to the freeness and fairness that the 1993 elections had. Again, does that not reflect how the labor of our heroes past have been in vain? Are we going to just lace and cover the truth? If Nnamdi Azikiwe, Obafemi Awolowo, and all the people who are an active part of Nigeria's story and our democracy were alive today to see the quality of leadership, the way in which we're still fighting corruption, the fact that the leaders of yesterday have refused to allow the leaders of tomorrow to come into office, will they be proud of the Nigeria that we have?
Okay, that's a question. I mean, so right now, I believe it's about the use of language. Because Nigeria, we aren't at a terminal point yet for you to say, okay, this is the end of the nation, let's do an evaluation, and then you conclude that the labor of our heroes past has been in vain. Nigeria is evolving. This is not the end. We're on a journey, and countries do have challenges. So we can turn the corner in the future. Nigeria can be one of the top three. Exactly, top three. Land. Nigeria can still be one of the top 3 economies in the world. We don't know what's going to happen in 20, 30, 40 years. So we can't conclude and say the labor of our heroes past has been in vain. But I understand Mr. Peter Obi's point, and he's speaking from a position of, and rightly so, anger, because nobody How can your past seem to be better than your present and the immediate future? It's an aberration.
So I think
you look at the
way,
history of the United States, for example. There was a time black people couldn't use the same lavatory. They couldn't sit on the same bus with. You know, they look at the back. Muhammad Ali, he won the boxing gold medal in the Tokyo Olympics in 1960. He came back home to Louisville, Kentucky. A white man wouldn't serve him. And that's just in 1960. So you can see how much they've evolved. They've had a black president, a black and white president, by the way. So you look back, and then I had a discussion with my mom yesterday. She was saying, you know, her first salary was 99, and she would go shopping, there will be change. The quality of life was, I mean, food was never a problem. And you look at Nigeria today. So I don't blame him for saying
in other words,
it was in vain.
You agree with the concept of what he's saying. It's just the line. We should not outrightly say what many people are thinking.
The future, exactly.
So I think following your thought process, when the country does take a bend, we'll be like, oh yes, it has come out of the curve. It wasn't in vain. What is the current reality? Just yesterday I was on a call with my friend. She wanted me to start, we're trying to talk about working out, and her virtual trainer collects, she was like, oh, it's just 19 pounds. I said, what? Just 19 pounds is almost 40,000 naira.
Wow.
Just 19 pounds, almost 40K. I say, I'm sorry, that one, I cannot be paying somebody to come and do virtual training for me. It's a lot of money. I will play YouTube instead.
When bring guys there?
Again, every time on this show, when I talk about it, I always make reference to this book, The Trouble with Nigeria.
Plugging me in. When I will collect 20K, only you do not squat, but please are not.
I will give him the this, but let's finish this painful matter at hand. Let's finish this matter at hand. I always, anytime we talk about this, I go back to Chinua Achebe's book. I've said it 2 million times on this show. That book, The Trouble with Nigeria. I remember the day I was reading this book and how angry I was. Because at the time, the things that Chinua Achebe was complaining about, he could not even fathom the depth of where we are right now.
What
he was alone in his grave.
And the irony is, even the society reflects who we are, and that's why they say people deserve their leaders. Take a look at Nigerian music industry, the sort of things they sing about, body shape, champagne, NST, Moe, and then 70% of your population is multidimensionally poor. How do you juxtapose? What did Fela say that he was singing about? He hadn't seen anything. He ain't seen nothing. If he comes back,
he was a prophet. The songs that Fela and Ikulapo Kuti sang decades before today, they're still relevant today. Not because of the timelessness of the music, but because we have the same challenges, and the challenges have evolved into more complicated forms.
I think there are many people. We have a segment here on the program, which is known as Which Way Nigeria. Remember the late...
In the 1980s, when Sunday Okosun sang Which Way
Nigeria, Which Way to Go, and that, that motivated us to come up with the Which Way Nigeria segment. Everything he mentioned there is still what we're going through. And then they say, tell Andrew not to do what? Not to check out. Andrew is happy that he checked out then.
Doctors. Andrew and friends.
They've gone.
Universal does not exist anymore.
Can you imagine? There's certain, if we look at it, I think it's the context as well that we need to look at. I always say this, if you want to judge a book by its cover, you may be wrong at the end of the day. But the context in which the 2023 presidential candidate mentioned was a context that had to do with the fact that Sir Edwin Clark, let me put it that way, Edwin Clark, I mean, he was known to always speak. Funny enough, before his death, I mean, we had an interview with him as well, and he spilled the beans. He was talking about how non-progressive the current situation is. He wasn't mincing words. He wasn't holding his mouth. He was always known to be an elder statesman who would speak out. A former information minister and so on. He understood what it was like working in the military era and coming down to our time. What would you expect? Changes, and not like what we're seeing today. So if the Senate president, I mean, with all due respect, was saying that Peter Obi should go and fix his small party rather than talk about what's going on and give respect to the late elder statesman. Yeah, I think he should also remember that the elder statesman, right before he slept, he kept talking critically about the need for the country to do better than what it was.
I think those in office are very sensitive to criticism.
That's it. So that's it. Apparently, that's another thing we've seen.
Mr. Fabio.
That's another thing we've seen in this.
There's another thing at the tip of my tongue.
There's another thing we've seen in this administration. And then I saw a tweet yesterday during that video while the Senate President has said something. Someone dropped a message, and the person said, okay, he can't fix his party and he's trying to run for presidency. And the person said, excuse me, sir, but why did you run from PDP if you couldn't fix it? And I said, oh, okay.
Valid.
That's another one.
So I think the other challenge is we like political correctness.
Balance.
We like political correctness. So I want to be politically correct. Sometimes we need to say things as they are. We need to be able to sometimes be very, what some will consider harsh with our truth, and not lace it with pretty words that make it sound palatable to the taste bud. In solving a problem, the first step is first of all recognizing there's a problem and being able to name what that problem is. Yes, the heroes before now will not be proud of the fact that we are where we are, because it feels like a lot of what they fought for has not materialized. And no matter how we try to sugarcoat it, the truth is it. The truth is the truth. It is what it is. We can't deny it. Whether Peter Obi says it or he doesn't say it, it will touch everybody. Anyway.
I went shopping yesterday. I couldn't believe what I took in the nylon. I kept asking, is this all?
It didn't correspond with what you paid.
That was not what
my
you got.
brother. I held 3 small nylon. I said, is this all? For how much? The money was like this. The nylon was tiny. I said, what is going on?
Do you remember
you have to pay for the nylon too. You know, that's the new thing. Yes. You have to pay for the nylon.
And I went
for nylon bags.
I also went shopping 2 days ago. I went to buy fruits and groceries. Now I was shocked at what I saw. The till, I'm sure when they opened that establishment, that hypermarket, the till had 1 to 26 lines. There were only 5 that were serving customers, and the entire place was empty. So it's an evaluation of the economic situation. It's not to say it's on the corner. It's we need empirical evidence.
It's the way that our parents will be giving us some gist of things that happened in the time, how they used to travel with, the kind of money they used to call, we couldn't have imagined. Even looking at life during Good Luck Ebele Jonathan to now, you can see the massive difference in the quality of life. Everybody dragged Good Luck Ebele Jonathan. Say what you want about
How can you be looking at your past and saying,
I get them before no property.
And the sad part is we are not seeing the sense of urgency that, look, we're in trouble, we need to fix this.
That's where the worry is.
And they're defending the situation. Look, you applied for a job, nobody forced you. You said you wanted to contest. You gave a manifesto. You said we can fix things. And I'm not talking about the presidency alone, it's across board, from the governors to every elective position. So if you can't do it, check out. There are local government chairmen that are doing a fantastic job. You will see the difference in some places in Lagos that, this road was terrible in the past. I mean, that's those tangibles, but on a bigger scale, and that's his primary responsibility. You see people that, I just don't want to mention names, not to give them free publicity. You see people that have done primary health care. You follow the progress in their own, and this is doing his job. If you're the president, please do your job. If you're a governor, do your job. Let everybody do their jobs. We show up every day to do this job. So why is it difficult for them to do what they have voted for?
I think at the end of the day, the summary of it would be they should leave Peter Obi alone. If Peter Obi says what he wants to say and they have a counter opinion, whoever has a counter opinion, come again. There are different platforms. When you two get on the podium, say your own. You mustn't make reference to Peter Obi and back it up. Because if you say something that is true, Nigerians who can relate with it will come and be like, yes, great speech, thank you for speaking up, well done, we love your speech. If you say something that they don't agree with, they will tear it apart, they will drag you. So everybody
acknowledge we have a problem and work towards resolving it.
And we are all when we all stand here and criticize the things that are not working, it's not because we don't want Nigeria to work. I don't think there's any Nigerian that genuinely does not want the country to work. If Nigeria works, it benefits me, it benefits you, it benefits you, it benefits you watching. It benefits all of us. We want the country to work, is why we will continue to point out the ills. Everybody wants to be able to afford decent health care so that people don't have to feel the need to always travel abroad.
We'll be going to the healthcare sector today on Drawing Board.
Exactly.
We have to see what would scare us.
People are doing whatever they can to go and have babies abroad. Why? So that they can, not just because of foreign passports, but because of the quality as well.
But then again, I'm happy, whether you like it or not. It's Friday. I think we should loosen up. Let's relax. Guys, breathe, okay? Don't let Nigeria stress you. Breathe. I mean, Nigeria is a beautiful country. We just have more issues, let's be honest. We're not perfect. We're going to get there. Yeah, but let's just work hard. I mean, let's just put the point. But I'm happy because DK Simba 1, is in the building, and we're happy. So
Which building?
Which
building?
It's in the building.
This building?
No, not this building. It's in the building of storytelling,
Okay, it's in the building phase as well, building Nigeria.
Yes.
So we'll start to see the results soon.
I see what you're doing there, but I'm just happy, It's a happy story for me.
Well, congratulations to him. Congratulations to the latest chief in Anambra State.
I'm going to give myself a chieftaincy title at the end of this
show. You cannot,
I'll give
those things you actually, let's not trivialize it. It's not by
I don't mean that type of chieftaincy title now. Relax now.
Okay.
You can't give yourself, your community will have to give you.
No, I don't want the community. I want to give my own self. It's not the type of chieftaincy title you think about.
Then it's not chieftaincy title.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Let's share our top stories with you this morning. The United Nations Children's Fund has confirmed it will no longer be able to provide critical education funding and supplies due to severe funding shortages. The announcement came during a high-level gathering in Maiduguri to mark the launch of the second phase of the multi-year resilience program under the Education Cannot Wait program, aimed at boosting education resilience in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa. News Central's Umaru Kirawa completes the report.
Out-of-school children remains a challenge in conflict-affected communities in Nigeria's northeast. UNICEF and officials from the Borno, Yobe and Adamawa state governments gathered in Maiduguri to launch a $15 million second phase of the multi-year resilience program. Education Cannot Wait.
I know that ECW will not have the funds to give more money for the multi-year resilience programs. This is it. No more funds after this. And I think I was talking with the Honourable Commissioner earlier. The global development sector is changing rapidly. UNICEF has to cut our staff globally by 20% by the end of June. And I've been challenging my staff here in Maiduguri to really work with the 3 states to ask what are the sustainable efforts that we can best support you with.
One decision from one person has changed everything. So if we are going to change, or we're going to adjust the work plan, we must understand the realities of the moment and also see where it is very important to fit into our gaps.
UNICEF, in collaboration with the state governments and consortium partners, will implement this 3-year project from 2025 to 2027 towards expanding access to formal and non-formal education services for over 500,000 conflict-affected children.
We cannot keep giving supplies. We cannot keep giving mainstreaming kits. We cannot keep giving dignity kits because we don't have the money.
If we have availability of water in the community, the people will not be trekking long distance to go and fetch water. If we have improved small businesses for the parents to get engaged, the people cannot be hawking on the street. They will have time to attend schools. So these are things that the government has to, they are small things, but they are very, very key.
Good governance through the provision of basic amenities like water, books, uniforms, toilets in schools, among others, are said to be key by the academic dawn to tackle the issue of out-of-school children. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Very interesting story there, but I think it's worthy of taking a look at, most importantly, now that UNICEF has made the intentions known. Let's move away from that story now and go to another one. The political landscape appears to be changing here in Nigeria, and the People's Democratic Party, PDP, is making what seems like moves to reclaim power in 2027. The party appears to be intensifying efforts aimed at reorganizing and strengthening its internal structures in preparation for the 2027 general elections. Key measures recently taken by the party include the appointment of the Edo State Caretaker Committee, as well as preparations for the forthcoming National Executive Committee, that's NEC meeting and National Convention. But are these reforms a game changer or just another political maneuver, especially looking at the internal crisis the party still has to contend with? Well, joining us to discuss this development is political analyst and columnist with the Punch newspaper, Mr. Jide Ojo. Really good to have you after such a long while. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. All right. Let's start off first with the PDP making these strong moves, regardless of what the party is going through internally. You've seen what's happening across all sections. I think my first question to you would be, aside from the PDP making this bold announcement, do you think that other political parties are starting to, wash off or wash away, while the major focus is on the APC, the reason why people are cross-carpeted to the APC? What's your take?
Thank you. Again, there's nothing new in the political landscape that should get us excited. Since 2023, PDP has been making these rhetorics about getting their acts together, planning to have congresses and convention and all of that. Talk is cheap. The most important thing is for them to get into action and resolve their internal leadership crisis. Once that is done, they will halt the hemorrhage and they will be able to attract more people into the party ahead of 2027. But whether this effort will be sufficient enough to knock off APC at the presidential level remains to be seen, because almost on a daily basis now there are defections into APC. Even yesterday on the floor of the National Assembly, both Senate and House of Reps, new members keep leaving PDP for APC. But again, it's nothing new. We have seen that those who jump back can still jump back, pardon my use of porn. Those who jump back to APC can still jump back to PDP. We have seen that time and again. Even in Rivers State, where 27 lawmakers purportedly said that they have left for APC, but they never consummated it. They never went to register their words for APC. So the first step is what PDP is trying to do, which is getting their acts together. They have planned to have National Executive Committee for 28th of May. They have planned to have their National Convention for 27th, 28th of August, which means that if they can have all of this laid out plan without rancor and they are able to manage the expectation of their members, once they have a stable leadership at the center, they will be able to attract more people joining them from different opposition parties and even the ruling party.
You say that
the ruling party is set to include.
You say that once they have a stable, some sort of stability at the center, what will it take for the People's Democratic Party to have stability at the center? It's been a while that we could say that they've had some form of stability. See, the past few weeks, they've suffered high-profile defections from governors, key stakeholders, cabinet members, all moving to the All Progressives Congress. So what will need to be put in place to say that the PDP can achieve stability at the center? And do you think they would be able to survive the recent wave of defections?
That's what I just said, that once they are able to resolve their leadership crisis, and what does it take? They are planned to, the governors met a couple of weeks ago in Ibadan, 10, 11 of them. Also the acting national chairman was in attendance, and they all agreed to some timelines, which is what the National Working Group is implementing now, that they are going to have their National Executive Council meeting later this month on the 28th, and then they will have the National Convention and produce new set of National Working Committee members in August. Initially, this was scheduled for December. You could see that all attempts to remove Damagun last year failed because they ran to the court and the court said it should be allowed to stay. So what it means to stabilize at the center means midwifing a new regime of leaders both at the National Executive Council level and at the National Convention, producing new set of leaders that will appeal to all and sundry, not in position of a chairman, national chairman, which has been the bane of the party for some time now, from the time after Adamu Muazu was removed in 2015, and they brought in Ali Modu Sheriff, from Ali Modu Sheriff to Prince Uche Secondus, from Secondus to Iyocha, and now Damago has been in acting capacity for 2 years running. And if they can successfully midwife, having their eyes on 2027, that if they want to produce a southern presidential candidate in 2027, they have to vote for a northern candidate as national chairman. Because what led to this round of crisis in PDP was having both the national chairman, Iyocha, and Atiku Abubakar from the same north. And they said it's not supposed to be. So if they can be obedient to their constitution, midwife a successful and rancor-free national convention in August, I will believe that they are on the right track to recovery. But if they fail to do that, and now one individual imposes his own will on the rest of the party, then another round of crisis will happen. And it is also a good news that from what I read, they have had a tete-a-tete with FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, who is one of the pillars of the party and who has also been very, I don't want to use negative words about him, but you know that he is a force to reckon with within the PDP, having mobilized for other colleagues to work against the party ahead of 2023 election. So they are having discussions, they are consulting across board, but let them have a successful National Executive Committee meeting later this month, and National Convention in August.
My question to you is, how do you prevent people from working in the interest, for putting the interest of the party first before their own political survival? Because it's one of the reasons why the PDP seems to be imploding. For example, you look at the governor of Akwa Ibom State, he's openly endorsed the president, the current president, who is a member of the APC, for the 2027 elections. And we also saw the defections in Delta State. The political observers say they're doing this to secure their own interest and also key in to the center. And while they're still PDP members, how do you do this fine balancing act in, do you put your party interest first or your own political survival?
Well, my brother, the truth is that politics is about interest, and the personal interest of the players come first. It's like a game of chess. Most members are pawns. The queen and the king are the prize, the prize stuff on the board. So the question is, all these chieftains are putting their own personal interest first. Now, what is party interest? Party interest is to rescue power in 2027. Is it poised to do that? It can do it. But let me tell you, without any fear of equivocation, if someone like Atiku Abubakar is intransigent and still will want to be the presidential candidate in 2027, it's going to play a spoiler's role. Because Atiku Abubakar is running parallel to Nyesom Wike. Wike has not made any pretense that if Atiku will still be playing key role in the party, he also will be there to checkmate him. So it's like a game of chess. So there are two broad, powerful interests within the PDP right now, that of Wike and that of Atiku Abubakar. And Atiku Abubakar is trying to pull them towards a coalition. And the governors, speaking the mind of Wike, said, we are not going into coalition. The same way that Abure has said in Labour Party that they are not for coalition. Because why Atiku Abubakar is pushing for coalition is so that he could be the standard bearer of the party in 2027. And he has won the ticket of PDP in 2019, in 2023. What did he bring to the table? So if somebody is not ready to moderate and lower his inordinate ambition to be president of Nigeria, it's going to create problem of reconciliation. Because how do you reconcile people who have an entrenched personal interest and are not ready to shift ground? Because Atiku Abubakar shifting ground would be, let me play the role of statesman. Let's midwife a successful national convention. Let's produce somebody who will appeal to all parts of the country so that we can then start to mend friends, reconcile genuinely, and then we can woo more people into the party. But if someone like that, who is going to be 80 in 2027, will still insist that it's either his way or highway, that he must be the standard bearer in 2027, I tell you, whatever they are putting together now will crumble like a pack of cards. And also, the Nyesom Wike factor. Nyesom Wike is openly working for APC, and he said he will not leave PDP. He has even secured a court injunction to say that he should not be suspended or sacked from the party. But he's obviously doing anti-party. So how do you tell that kind of individual who openly is doing anti-party, but is also got a court order on his side to say he should not be suspended or sacked? So the two powerful forces within PDP must moderate their interest, which I spoke to earlier on, their personal interest, which I spoke to earlier on. If they can moderate that and allow sense and common sense to prevail, then PDP will overcome its current challenge, will be able to halt defection guild, the guild of defection that is beleaguering the party, and then they can woo more people. Because as I informed earlier on, take my word for it, APC will implode. The way APC is taking everybody in many states, there will be an implosion. And people who have jackpot to APC will want to jackpot to their respective party. It will be a case of, we even thought this one is better, but it's worse. Look at someone like Valentine Ozigbo in APC Anambra. Now he has issues with the way Nicolas Ukachukwu has emerged as the candidate of the party, that due process was not followed. He didn't get waiver, he didn't stay in the party up to 3 months, and yet he was allowed to contest without getting a waiver. And someone like that, you know, there's something called crowdism in politics. It's either my way or highway. Pull him down, pull her down. So what I know for certain is at some point before 2027, APC will implode. And it is left for main opposition party like PDP to put its own house in order so that it becomes an alternate platform to APC when the crisis of ticketing, because once it comes to organizing primaries and powerful forces could not get tickets, they are looking for alternate platform where they can realize their ambition. That is the way politics is. So it is in the enlightened best interest of PDP and other opposition parties to put their house in order ahead of 2027, because they will reap bountifully from implosion that may likely engulf APC. But if they are worse off than APC themselves, it then means that those who may want to come back or may want to come into PDP will say, let me just lick my wound in APC and stay with the ruling party. So that is game, you know, like it's like a game of chess. Politics is like a game of chess. It's primarily a game of interest. And wherever your interest lies is where you go. Party system, political parties are just special purpose vehicles through which they come to power. And that's why you see that there is now a lot of dynamism. There is no more a traditional PDP state, a traditional APC state, a traditional Afghan state. Because what we have seen now is that that tradition has been broken. Delta is now in APC for the very first time since 1999. Up to the time that Ben Ayade pulled Cross River from PDP to APC, APC never won election in Cross River. The same thing in Ebonyi. And that's why if Abia is not careful in managing the Labour Party crisis, if Alex Otti leaves now, for the first time, a Labour Party is winning in Abia, but if Otti leaves, he may be leaving for APC, and that will make APC to have more states within the Southeast geopolitical zone. So, by and large, it's about interest of the gladiators, but they need to moderate that influence so that the overall goal, overall success of the party will be the paramount thing that they will all work for.
All right, I just want to go back again because you had talked about Nyesom Wike being a strong figure in the party, the role that he played, being able to mobilize further leaders in the party to work, quote unquote, or stand strongly against the party. You also did mention when I asked you about what the PDP needed to do, you talked about how the PDP, they've had meetings, they're in talks, they are going to set up a new leadership model or structure, and there's a deadline by August. Again, I want to go back to Nyesom Wike. If they're having talks now, what do you think the talks should look like with Nyesom Wike, and especially because you realize that he's a key figure in the party. In fact, within the party, here on the show, we've had different people who have different thoughts about how Nyesom Wike should be, quote unquote, allow me to use the word handled loosely. Some think that he should have been fired to make a strong statement. Others think, you can't throw away the baby and the bathwater. And they would argue that Nyesom Wike not having been sanctioned has in a way weakened the structure of the party because it makes people within the party and outside feel like anything can go within the PDP.
No discipline.
Yeah, that there's no discipline and there's a culture of impunity.
Now, that's why I reference the fact that Nyesom Wike has gotten a court injunction that he should not be suspended or sacked. I don't know whether you are aware. Right from 2023, I guess, he went to court, and I don't know whether that case has gone on appeal or whether the PDP has appealed that. But you see, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. You cannot write off Nyesom Wike. You do that at your own peril. He is a major financier of PDP, in case you do not know. He is a major financier. When other governors, other party chieftains are not willing to put down their own resources to run the party, Nyesom Wike has used tremendous resources to run PDP as it were, which is why he also wants to call the shots. And he has, if you go back to many of his media interviews, he has not made any pretense about that. In fact, there was a time that when Iche Secondus was going to be brought in after the debacle of Alimadu Sheriff, they wanted to shift the National Convention from Port Harcourt to somewhere else, maybe Enugu or somewhere. And he told them point blank, if you try it, that the consequence will be very disastrous for the party. The party had to concede to having that convention in Port Harcourt, and that was how Prince Uche Secondus emerged as the national chairman of the party. And when Uche Secondus was not willing to take instruction from Wike again, he made sure that he never even served out his term. He was thrown under the bus 3 months to the expiration of his tenure. Despite the fact that he was a charming friend of Nyesom Wike, and Nyesom Wike was very instrumental in bringing him to power. They got his word in Rivers to suspend him. And before you could say Jack Robinson, he was a gunner. 3 months to the expiration of his tenure. And that was why, they brought in Iyorchia Ayu. Iyorchia Ayu too was, Wike was also very instrumental in bringing in Iyorchia Ayu. So what I think the PDP needs to do now is to moderate Wike's influence in the emergence of the new set of leaders. Because if he populates PDP with his henchmen, there will be trouble ahead. It will now become PDAPC. If you understand my drift, it will become PDAPC because Wike is poised and has not made any mincemeat that he's going to work for APC in 2027. At least he wants to deliver FCT and Rivers to APC. And so if you allow him to dictate and bring in his acolytes, his chums, his cronies, as national chairman, as secretary, as all of that, then you forget about 2027 because even if Wike will not contest in 2027, he wants to make sure that he has a say in who becomes the presidential candidate. And that's why, he and Atiku Abubakar are at loggerheads and wanting to ensure that none of them is able to influence much. So it is not for other leaders within the party, like the governors forum. They still have about 10 or 11 governors with them to kind of midwife an arrangement that will be win-win for both Atiku and Wike's camp, because you cannot dismiss the two juggernauts. So an arrangement must be midwife where both camps will play key role in the forthcoming election in August. Otherwise, there is a popular adage in my part of the world that a cripple, a leper may not be able to milk a cow, but he can spill the milk. So they need to be handled with care. The two gentlemen I've mentioned are very fragile. As they say in aviation parlance, handle with care. Fragile, handle with care. So you need to handle them with care. Make sure that you massage their ego, but don't allow them domineering influence on who emerges in the next National Working Committee and National Executive Committee.
All right. It's been a very interesting conversation there. Thank you so much, Mr. Jide Ojo, for coming through and also highlighting some of the key elements regarding the PDP and Nigeria's political landscape. We thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Do enjoy the rest of your day and happy weekend ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. You too. All right. Well, that does it for the first hour. So far, so good. We've taken a look at some of these very, very interesting stories from the political parts, like Mr. Jide Ojo has also highlighted. There's a lot. There's a lot.
And deep insight. For example, just revealing that, and I wonder what sort of court I give that sort of judgment, but who am I?
The FCT minister, right?
Yes, preempting and knowing that what he's doing is anti-party, but going to court to, get an injunction.
But is that also? I don't know. I mean, if we look at the legality of that, right? The party has rules and regulations.
Yes,
can you use an injunction to?
Yeah, and what happened to internal party politics? But why has the party not even appealed?
But to balance it, like he said, he's not sure that they've appealed. But to also balance it, I think another thing we should look at is the fact that the minister, in all fairness, had come out to say that in one of his media charts that he had gone to the party and said, listen, I've been given an appointment. That he showed it to them and said, I've been given an appointment, I've been given an appointment.
I mean, but that's a different issue. It's like saying I'm working at New Central and I get a court injunction saying New Central management can't fire me. But then I'm doing breakfast in another station. And I just show up anytime I want to show up.
Valid.
I already bought you an olive lunch and dinner. You people kind of criticize me.
I see what you did there. I understand.
But that's a valid argument.
That's a valid one. That's a valid
one. Anyway, let's share what's coming up next on Breakfast Central.
Coming up next on Breakfast Central, Senate passes tax reform bills into law, rejects 10% VAT hike. PINL, River State communities rise against pipeline vandalism. Ipman urges federal government to settle debt owed to marketers. All of these stories and more coming up in a moment.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's now take a look at the major decision from the National Assembly, one that could shape the financial future of millions of Nigerians. The Senate has approved key tax reform bills, but here's the twist. They've turned down the proposed VAT hike. A classic case of reform versus reality, many have argued. On one hand, the tax system is getting a much-needed overhaul, streamlining revenue collection, cutting inefficiencies, and introducing new penalties for tax evasion. But on the other hand, the rejection of the VAT hike means the government must find alternative ways to boost revenue without burdening citizens.
The four major tax reform bills passed by the Senate include Nigeria Tax Administration Bill 2024, Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill 2024, Nigeria Tax Bill 2024, Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill 2024. The VAT remains at 7.5%, rejected the proposed increase to 10%. The new VAT sharing formula, 10% for the federal government, 55% for states and the Federal Capital Territory, and 35% for local governments. States can now establish their own revenue tax boards, decentralizing tax collection.
Well, joining us now to give us a breakdown of what this tax reform bills means, its impact on Nigeria and, of course, Nigerians, is Chief Economist and Lead Head of SPM Professionals, Dr. Paul Alaje, who joins us this morning. Thank you for being here. It seems like it's all uhuru. Let me use that word now for Nigeria's economy. Most importantly, looking at the sharing formula, 35%, 10% for federal government, not forgetting to 35% for local government, 55% as well. And then you can go ahead and set up your own tax boards. Please, kindly shed more light, especially to our viewers, on how beneficial this move is.
Yeah, thank you so very much. First of all, I must congratulate the Senate. After a long time, there is now courage to pass the tax bill. And of course, harmonization will be done with the House of Representatives. When that is done, a single bill that has been harmonized between the House of Representatives and the Nigerian Senate will be passed to the President for him to consider and possibly append the signature. Then we say we have an act. One of the things that Senate has done, which of course was done by the House of Representatives, is never to increase VAT. I remember that I spoke with your correspondents when this was a trending issue as to whether we should increase VAT that's been recommended by the committee from 7.5 to 10% and an onward increase in the future. And I mentioned that we have to tread very cautiously, knowing fully well of the situation that we are faced with now, that VAT should not be increased. There are a few of recommendations that we made that was adopted by the Senate and House of Representatives together. It's important for that decentralization because it is clear that FRS alone cannot have that spread. And I must give credit to FRS for what they've done thus far. The spread, most of the time, surpassing their own targets. But it's also important that some of the states will have their own board, but collaborate, because now we're having national tax bill. There is nothing like only the federal government. We have national, and all of these can now collaborate under a national nomenclature that we have. So I think it's a good one, and to the large part of it, I also think that states will need to become more responsible, because the 55% going to states and the 35% going to local government, what federal government is demonstrating is that we are now at a time where we support decentralization. Before now, it used to be the 15 to federal government. Federal government is delivering more by reducing its components to 10%. So when you hear of VAT, you should now know that VAT is more for states and for local government, as the percentage federal government takes has further reduced by 50%, that is from 15% now to 10%.
Now, Dr. Alaje, what benefits does this bring to the ordinary Nigerian who have trust deficits in government? They believe that we're going to be paying more money, and we haven't seen what they've done with the monies we've given them in the past. Now that the federating units have been empowered and would be given more money, what should ordinary Nigerians expect?
Well, like I said, we need to ask questions from state authorities. We need to ask questions from local authorities because they have access to more funds. Even before this tax bill is passed at the Senate, before now, we have seen that revenue that goes to states has increased by, say, 200%, in some instances 240% for most states. So when we look at what should we do is to now ask those states questions. I said once before that President Tinubu's policy, he hoped that the state government will invest most of the money back into their respective economies at the subnational level. But the question is, was that done? Have we seen that kind of investment? Yes, we have seen it in some states, about few states. But as I talk to you, there are still some states that have not been able to pay the minimum wage. And that is really sad. The minimum wage is not paid by some states. What citizens should do is to ask questions, is to ask to hold their leaders accountable. The way many persons are doing it for federal government, which I do not in any way condemn, which I do not in any way criticize, which I think is commendable. We need to also have doing the same for different state governments. We need to have those, I call them champions of democracy and good governance, the civil society. They need to ask the same questions, even at respective states. Because if we don't, eventually we count the number of poor people in Nigeria. Meanwhile, we have at least 36 subnational with the FCT and the federal government. But most of the time, attention goes to the federal government, which is not wrong, but we need to do something by also making, especially those state governments, very, very accountable.
One major issue we have as a country when it comes to conversations about tax is poor implementation. Are there any steps that need to be taken to ensure that we have proper implementation of these policies? But we'll have your response when we come back from this break. Welcome back to the show. We're still looking at the tax reforms that have been approved by the Senate and the rejection of VAT. We have Paul Alaje joining us this morning. Now, before we went on the break, I asked you about what steps need to be taken because we struggle with proper implementation. So what other steps need to be taken to ensure that these approvals do not just become paperwork and we can see a proper implementation?
Well, it's the purposefulness of those in authority and purposefulness of those that work at respective tax agencies, be it at the federal, state, or local government. And one of the things that this tax reform has done, because I mentioned that I have support for it up to about 60 to 70%. One of the things that this tax reform has done is elimination or reduction, drastic reduction in multiple taxation. What we don't expect to see again is some people carrying stick all over our roads and putting it under our vehicles in the name of one environmental bill or that bill or the other. So this tax reform seems to have settled some of those concerns. Another one is vehicle traveling from Lagos to Sokoto will not need to pay over 40 taxes and charges anymore if the tax reform is properly implemented. And there is an administration of some sort that seems to investigate if people are not comfortable. We have not had that before. So people must be able to look at the bill and also ask questions again and hold state, federal, or local government accountable. So that is if there is no proper implementation of the same. I also think the authorities need to take it more seriously in ensuring what this will do for us is that we now have understanding of what different persons will do. And you see, this should not just be the Senate just passing. It must emanate from the people. And how do I mean? We are going to have all political parties make contribution to such documents. We are going to have all peoples. You know, if you read the peoples of Nigeria, I can't remember when people from my village made contribution to that constitution to say that we the peoples of Nigeria. So even if we are going to make it a form of reform, that we now have a lot of Nigerian different people make contribution to it, then we can have a major progress. Because sometimes we as a people, sometimes including our leader, want the nation to move forward. But the document that put us together, called the Constitution, seems to have some challenge. And that is why lawyers and those civil society are saying we might just need to have a major review of this law, our Constitution, I beg your pardon. And for me, as an economist, I know that the major challenge we have is that, listen, if President Tinubu has done 4 years and if he likes wants to run again and Nigeria wishes to vote, and we say that, oh, we want to vote for President Tinubu, and he has 8 years, listen, what will happen immediately after he leaves? If President Tinubu brings somebody that is closest to him and say, I want this person to continue, I can tell you, 70% that person will still do away with President Tinubu policy. So when are we going to have consistency and progress in our economy? It is because we do some, and it's not just since President Obasanjo. This has been from Green Revolution. I can state in economic history, Nigerian economic history, how we have departed from one policy or the other, not mindful of how much we have devoted to conception, to implementation, and actual things that happen in the policy. All of those gone until we now say that we want to start another thing. We now start spending new money, opening bids for people to come fresh, and all of this will have implications on the economy.
I kind of like agree with you, because a national economic plan would be the best way to go. I mean, I've also asked myself many times that why is it that if the administration comes forth, they completely change, there's no continuity. They just change what the other person was doing. I mean, from the late...
From the same party.
Yes, late President Musa Yar'Adua. I mean, when President Jonathan came on board, he changed. And then when, President Buhari won the elections, he also came with his own plan and changed everything completely. And that's a big fear. But you've talked about the National Economic Development Plan and how it needs to be put into the Constitution, into law. And then each president will be bound by it. Same with the subnationals. But if I may ask, now that we've seen the tax reform bills, how are we certain that it will still be able to trickle down to the subnationals? Mostly, let's look at governors this time. They now have the wherewithal to be able to have their own tax boards and so on. But is there any fear? Who would be able to monitor them? Who would monitor their tax boards? Who would be able to ensure that there's some form of accountability when it comes to managing these taxes?
Well, before now, they have tax boards. As I talk to you, most states have their tax board. They call it states. So if it is Lagos State, LIRS, Lagos State Internal Revenue Service. So the difference, one is the change of nomenclature and a little bit more of empowerment. Lagos State, Plateau State, Oyo State, Kano State, they all have their own revenue board. Even Benue State, most of the states, even in the East, and they are all doing their bit in collecting revenue that belongs to states, which includes, what's it called now? Personal income tax. They are revenue that go to states. Two, what this enables them to do is also to now collect some revenues that federal government is collecting on their behalf and seek remit back to them. Not all, but few. So these revenues can now be collected by them. Now, this is their money. Whether they manage it themselves well or not is another conversation entirely, because it is their money. But the concern here is that Nigerians also have a responsibility to ask that if we are going to pay more, or if we are dragging Nigerians to tax brackets, the question will be, where that you are dragging us to, where is the performance of what you have asked us to pay for? Where can we trace, can we compare how much you earn in revenue or in taxes with the kind of project implementation that you have done? And I think this is very important. So do I think federal government will want to now start monitoring respective state government? I doubt if the federal government will have that capacity, or if the law states that the federal government will monitor. I think what will happen most of the time is to have a joint committee, which is why the We are changing the name from the FRS to the National Revenue Service. National Revenue Service. So we can have something national in nature where all different revenue agencies, boards can come together, and as a federating unit, we can have conversation, we can have meeting, we can make law, we can take decision, we can share revenue at that level. So I don't think that it will be the federal government will have that power over the state to say that this is what must be. I think states will become relatively more autonomous. And eventually, when we are talking of economic decentralization, the truth is that we might be having it gradually. We might be having that decentralization gradually. So we just need some major moves. Then we can know that perhaps the center influence will reduce, because revenue is one of the ways you can reduce influence of a component of the unit. Reducing federal government share of VAT by 10% and giving that to the local government is a way to also reduce that influence revenue that the federal government has. But you should know that to him that much is given, we're expecting more. What does it mean? If federal government is saying we are doing away with some of our revenue, then we should know that responsibility will also go to the state and to the local government.
Paul Alaje, thank you this morning for joining us and just sort of breaking down the reforms, the tax reforms, what the next steps are, and how we can make the best of our tax. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Anyway, I think
take away from that conversation, and it's worries, because I often wonder what is, because a lot of critics of the presidency and the government is because they can't feel the impact of government around them. There's some blames that we erroneously apportion to Abuja, which is, not an Abuja problem. It's your drainage, the roads, the roads within your vicinity, streetlights, and issues like that should be on the purview of local government. And I asked him that question. He said, okay, more money to them, but his biggest fear is accountability. If they will be able to use this money judiciously. But Nigeria is not a monolithic. We have the Nigerian police force. We have the EFCC. So why is he worried? And this local government chairman and councillors don't have immunity. So why is he worried about accountability? If these agencies do their jobs, and we have more civil society groups and journalists also highlight some of these local government issues, then
I like what you said. You used the if construct. If they do their jobs, and we do know that in most times, in most cases, they barely do their jobs. You do have local government council chairmen who don't even live within the local government. As soon as they become a local government chairman, they move to a more sophisticated area. They don't live there. So when they call them, they usually visit, and they visit once in a while to check how the boys are doing, what's going on. These are facts. You see, I also like the fact that he brought out the point that it's also high time for us to call them out. Like request, ask, civilization. He mentioned those words, and it's true. It's one thing. Nigeria, I think we're used to the point that whatever they do doesn't concern us. But there has been calls in recent years, past 3 years, where people have said, "Know your local government chairman, know his name, have his phone number." Benga, I think where there is a lacuna is people don't understand that it is service. The local government chairman doesn't understand that what he's coming to do is service. He's not Lord and Master. Yeah. But unfortunately, he is viewed as Lord and Master, even by the people. They view him as Lord and Master as well. So hence why, whenever he's the local government chairman, you see all the hailings and saluting, and then your roads are bad, they're terrible, and he has money, and now you'll be having more money in the economy, and nothing will be done.
All right, let's take the conversations away from here to bring you the latest regarding the White Lion. Yesterday, our correspondent Joshua Imari was in court and now brings us updates regarding the situation at hand and how far we have gotten with the case. Good morning, Joshua. Can you bring us up to speed regarding the case yesterday? We hear that there were certain issues regarding admission of certain documents by the EFCC. Just walk us through what happened in court yesterday.
Well, good morning to you guys, and a pleasant morning from the Federal High Court. Before I jump into the case, but I must tell you that the security presence here at the Federal High Court is very, very tense. They deployed EFCC agents across several parts of the court. Even in gate, you now have issues getting in. I initially had issues getting in. I had to take the intervention of the DSS officer attached to the Federal High Court, whom I have a personal relationship with before I could get inside. That's by the way. Yesterday at the commencement of proceedings in the FGS case, the EFCC case of the Ayabelo, the judge, Honorable Justice Emeka Enwike, ruled on the admissibility of a document. This particular document is the FCC High Court ruling on a case between Ayabelo's brother Alaje and the trustees of the Abuja American International School in Abuja. That particular actually favored the Ayabelo's brother. You can recall some time ago that the school made some reforms to the EFCC. Moving forward, the Ayabelo's brother sued the school, and the trustee of the school are saying that they have no right to return that particular money, saying that there was not a court order mandating them to send out that particular, to return that particular money to the EFCC. And they brought the argument to court. Now, when trying to prove the case of the Ayabelo, the defense counsel brought up that particular judgment that ruled in favor of the Ayabelo's brother. And when the EFCC's defense, the EFCC prosecutor had the defense trying to bring up that particular document because he objected vehemently. Now, based on the last adjournment, before the last adjournment, we had this particular issue on ground. So at the resumption of proceedings yesterday, the court ruled in favor of the Ayabelo's lawyer, saying that the court has gone past the platform of technicalities down to the dispensation of justice, saying that there is no law that states that that particular document cannot be brought into the case. Now, this has gone further punctured move into the case of the EFCC. Why am I saying this? The court ruled in favor of the Ayabelo's brother, saying that there was not a subpoena or a court order saying that that particular funds paid into the school's account was a proceeds from fraudulent activity or corruption. Neither was there a court order mandating that they return that particular money to the EFCC. So the ruling, the defense comes to that the lawyer of the Ayabelo favor. And moving forward, they brought forward the internal auditor of the American International School in Abuja, who testified before the court that the Ayabelo's name is not among the parents' names who are paying school fees in that particular school. When pushed further, he further said that no funds emanating from the government account, from Kogi State government account, or any local government account was tied to any funds that came into the American International School's account. So that is where we are in the case. And based on my own opinion and my view, it has punctured the case of the EFCC in trying to hold the Ayabelo culpable of money laundering. Because why? The EFCC, amongst the charges, the EFCC said the Ayabelo paid almost $800,000 to settle school fees upfront. According to them, he allegedly paid that particular money to offset school fees upfront. But now the court is saying, based on the judgment of the Federal High Court in Abuja, that's the Abuja Federal High Court, that particular money, there was no proof linking it to proceeds of fraudulent activity or money laundering.
All right. A lot of points there, and I do understand that yesterday was packed in terms of what took place in the court. But we'll get back to you, and hopefully we'll get more information. And please do us a favor. Let's see if you can, find a way to speak with the White Lion himself. I know he's very evasive when it comes to speaking with the media. I'm also aware that you tried, but maybe this time you might need to really try harder and see if you can hold him down. Thank you so much, Joshua Marayi, for the updates concerning the White Lion, that's former Governor of Kogi State, Ayabelo's case in court.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I was wondering if you were sending Joshua to arms away. You want him to speak to a lion?
No,
okay.
I'm sorry about that, but it's Thank you. Okay, all right. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we have more stories to look into. Don't forget as well, how much are you going to spend on medical or health care in Nigeria with the current situation? Well, there's a lot you need to know, but that will be after the break and much more. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, in a significant step towards securing Nigeria's economic mainstay, Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited, the agency responsible for the surveillance of Trans-Niger pipeline is forging partnerships with local communities. At its stakeholders' engagement with oil-producing communities held in Port Harcourt, the River State capital PINL emphasized that the company will work hands in gloves with locals to prevent pipeline vandalism. New Central's Biola Festus tells us more in this report.
The Engagement Initiative is a platform for stakeholders of oil-producing communities to critique the modus operandi adopted by the Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited, PINL.
Pipeline Infrastructure Limited, since you came into being, one of the things we, the local people, have been able to use in recognizing you is always being in touch with us. And again, we are here today for them to hear us out and to carry our feedback to those they are representing. People are suffering too much. Women and children are suffering too much. Our youths are dying too much. Our husbands are complaining too much. The land is being polluted every day. Please try and teach your sister companies the art of communication so there will be peace and progress in our land. We were told that we should wait. Everything that going to benefit communities is in the pipeline. Today, I want to believe that pipeline infrastructure has come to give this benefit or this deposit to our people. And I know you will not fail on this very mandate. May God help you to do so and achieve what is needed for our people.
Community relations personnel of PINL, Akos Meze, highlights successes achieved through collaborations with host communities in its fight against crude oil theft.
Pipeline infrastructure's mandate to protect the Trans-Niger pipeline has been achieved through strategic engagement with the host communities. This collaborative approach has not only led to stronger relations, but also forged a united front in the fight against pipeline vandalism and oil theft. We have also ensured that we restore the environment hitherto destroyed by incessant crude oil spills.
Judging by the increment of crude oil production output in recent years, stakeholders across oil-producing communities want the NNPCL to review Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited's contract deal.
We are using this medium to reiterate a vote of confidence on Pipeline Infrastructure Nigeria Limited. We're not just saying that, we're using this medium to also call on NNPCL to do an upward review of the contract based on current realities so that there will be a financial boom within the community.
With its renewed approach of according a sense of belonging to host communities through their inputs, PINL aims to record zero infractions on oil facilities in the Trans-Niger pipeline corridors. In Rivers State for News Central, Biola Festus.
The Independent Marketers Association of Nigeria has called on the federal government to settle outstanding liabilities being owed petroleum marketers to ensure unhindered supply of products around the country. The new executive of IPMEN are taking their oath of office in Abuja through their weight behind the policies of President Bola Tinubu, saying that the transition to compressed natural gas, CNG, will pose a win-win for the country, while also commending the total deregulation of the oil and gas sector. They assured that IPMEN will partner with other unions in the oil and gas sector to ensure the seamless supply of petroleum products across the country.
Appealing in the sense that our marketers has a very big sum of outstanding debts with Petroleum Equalization Fund, and we are trying to see that this debt is being paid, and I'm calling the attention of the entire marketers to exercise patience their money, by God's grace, will be paid by the NDP-PRA.
Interesting story there. Well, looking at the fact that CNG is starting to become very popular now, the only challenge we have from the statements being made and what Benga had read out from the communique is that we need more CNG stations. I do understand that just not too far off from our live studio, there happens to be one.
There's
not too far
queue.
And it caters to the entire, from the Ikeja, Gidimbi, or Mole axis and all that. So you can imagine the number of persons.
About the one at the junction there.
Yes, at Gidimbi. It caters to everybody within that axis and then streamlines down to people who are coming all the way from, if you're coming all the way from Ojota
Maryland
and so on. Just one. So I think we need more. We need more.
And how many people are still comfortable with transitioning to CNG? If you go and ask people,
that's a question.
Would you be willing to transition to CNG, seeing as it's cheaper for you? You buy this gas, use it for like a week or a month. It's really, really cheap. Will they still be comfortable with the idea of carrying the cylinders in their boots? So I think it's a bit of it will take a while before people become comfortable.
Quite a number of people have adopted it, especially
you know anyone who
drivers. You just have to look at the queue because
I don't know anybody personally who has adopted it.
Yeah,
I buy petrol from that particular station and I see the queue. I see the different classes and types of cars that come there. So it's
maybe when Benga shares the money when he shares that money he made, then we'll buy a small car. I'll buy a small car from the profit, and then I would convert that small car. Because for me, first thing that comes to my mind is I had someone use a 3,500 naira.
How much?
3,500 to Ibadan and back. And I said, really? He said, oh yeah. And then
I had 20,000 a month.
And then he popped his boot, and there you have the gas cylinder. The issue I had is it's massive. It takes so much space.
So where are you going to put loading?
Where are you going to, if you're traveling, where are you going to put the, and so on and so forth. So maybe they should have smaller gas cylinders.
I mean,
if you have the capacity,
exactly. If it's smaller, then it won't be able to go.
It won't be able to last long. You won't be able to go back. You're going back every week.
I'd rather come back. I have space.
I think the problem is the conversion.
The conversion kit
is expensive, so it slows down the adoption rate. And if conversion was easier, I mean, it makes no sense. Do you think I'm happy buying?
Yeah, and then there's an expose. Someone said that the government of President Bola Tinubu had subsidized the rate to make it, lesser for Nigerians. But the middlemen had decided to increase the price.
They need to really deal. They need to deal with people that do that. It's the worst form of crime, and government needs to monitor and ensure that you cut off this middleman. They've given a discount. I saw a story about a young man that wanted to take CNG-enabled taxis in Abuja. He was charging a teacher 30,000 naira from the town to the airport. So he took the number of the taxi driver who was on a presidential initiative which should actually be discounted. And he explained that I'm just a teacher. He paid the 30,000 naira. Do you know what? He took the number, reported that taxi driver. They took the vehicle from him and removed the CNG kit. You can't be a beneficiary of government policies and then still be cheating people out of that system. So I thought, yes, it's good. Nigerians should learn to report and make people accountable. I read another story of a young man that they said their refund policy is 30 days. That I should wait for 30 days before they return. Something he paid for yesterday. He got his lawyers to write them for 30 days and said they should pay him he paid 300k. So he said they should even pay him 500k as compensation for holding his money. They returned his money. So you need to know your rights as Nigerians.
It's as if sometimes, like they say, if you keep quiet, sometimes you might be taken for a mumu. That's, I mean, for the Nigerian context, we do understand what that means. But let's talk about the tax reforms. Yesterday, the National Assembly was agog with members, pinpointing the benefits of the tax reforms, and then they highlighted which one was dropped and which one was, just passed. And just recently, we spoke with an economist who also highlighted some of the, benefits. But let's not forget, it has not been enacted into law.
The president needs to sign and assent to it.
There has to be a joint, they have to come review it and then send it to the president who needs to assent it, and then it would be eventually a law. I think it's good, but then again, the Nigerian Senate has passed the remaining 2 of the 4. Let's take a look at what also went down in the National Assembly.
I want to reiterate the Conference Committee on Harmonization of the Tax Reform Bills as passed differently by the House of Representatives and Senate. If you notice, what we passed here had slight differences with what the House of Representatives did, because here we actually were very meticulous in ensuring that we did some more clarity in terms of certain provisions. So I believe that the conference committee will take it from there. Please feel free to bring it up, and we can see make amendment.
We looked at the BAT. We looked at the BAT, and we also looked at the issue of the development levy, which have generated a lot of controversies. We also looked at the issue of family income, inheritance, which has created a lot, and all this has been expunged in order at least to give every part of this country their fair share.
Very interesting one there. Nigerians brace up once the president puts pen to paper, I'm sure, after the chief has returned to Aso Rock. Then we can start the conversation proper. But experts have said, from economic experts, it's looking like a very good news. It's also a good story. It's also a good thing for Nigeria. Hopefully, it would help the economy to bounce back. Let's tell you what's still to come later on here on Breakfast Central as we head into the final hour. We do have, breakfast headlines coming up soon after the break.
World leaders have warmly congratulated Pope Leo XIV on his election, urging him to champion peace in an increasingly conflict-ridden world. President Bola Tinubu extended his congratulations, expressing confidence that the election of Pope Leo XIV marks a new chapter for the Roman Catholic Church, one that reinforces its enduring values of love, humanity, and compassion for the underprivileged. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said the Pope's early emphasis on peace resonates with the hopes of much of humanity and honors the legacy of the late Pope Francis. In his congratulatory message, U.S. President Donald Trump said it was an honor to see the first American elected to the papacy, adding that he looks forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV. On his part, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed hope that the new Pope would use his influence to promote peace amidst ongoing war with Russia, while his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, voiced optimism for improved relations. The Nigerian Senate has passed the remaining 2 of the 4 tax reform bills proposed by President Bola Tinubu. The 2 bills passed on Thursday are the Nigerian Tax Bill 2025 and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. The Joint Revenue Board Bill seeks to harmonize revenue collection across all tiers of government and establish a tax appeal tribunal to be headed by a civil servant as executive secretary. The Nigerian Tax Bill, on its part, consolidates the country's tax laws to modernize the system, improve compliance, and strengthen economic growth. Both bills were debated at the Committee of the Whole and passed after a majority of senators supported them via a voice note.
Reiterate, the Conference Committee on Harmonization of the Tax Reform Bills has passed differently by the House of Representatives and Senate. If you notice, what we passed here had slight differences with what the House of Representatives did, because here we actually were very meticulous in ensuring that we did some more clarity in terms of certain provisions. So I believe that the conference committee will take it from there. Please feel free to bring it up, and we can see make amendment.
We looked at the BAT. We looked at the BAT, and we also looked at the issue of the development levy, which have generated a lot of controversies. We also looked at the issue of family income, inheritance, which has created a lot, and all this has been expunged in order at least to give every part of this country their fair share.
Senate President Godswill Akpabio responded to recent comments made by Peter Obi, the Labour Party's presidential candidate in the 2023 elections. Obi, while speaking at a valedictory session held in honor of the late elder statesman, Chief Edwin Clark, had remarked that the labours of Nigeria's heroes past were already in vain given the country's current realities. But in his remarks, Akpabio urged Obi to first demonstrate leadership by resolving the internal crisis in the Labour Party before inciting public sentiment and using social media to criticize the government.
But it makes a statement that the labours of heroes past are in vain. I beg to disagree. Let our brother Peter Obi show leadership like Edwin Clark did by resolving first the crisis in the Labour Party. For a man who wants to run Nigeria, you have one of the smallest parties in Nigeria, and you cannot even resolve the crisis in that Labour Party. Is it the crisis of Boko Haram that you will come and resolve in Nigeria? I would like us to be known for what we did when we had the opportunities.
Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria has called on the federal government to settle outstanding liabilities being owed petroleum marketers to ensure unhindered supply of products around the country. The new executive of the IPMAN, while taking their oath of office in Abuja, threw their weight behind the policies of President Bola Tinubu, saying that the transition to be compressed natural gas will pose a win-win for the country, while also commending the total deregulation of the oil and gas sector. They assured that IPMAN will partner with other unions in the oil and gas sector to ensure the seamless supply of petroleum products across the country.
We are still appealing in the sense that our marketers has a very big sum of outstanding debts with Petroleum Equalization Fund, and we are trying to see that this debt is being paid, and I'm calling the attention of the entire marketers to exercise patience. Their money, by God's grace, will be paid by the NDPPRA.
In Angola, a major legal and political showdown is unfolding after Luanda courts abruptly blocked the national debate on electoral reform, drawing sharp criticism from the country's Bar Association. On Thursday, the Angola Bar Association, known as the OAA, condemned the last-minute court order as a severe blow to democracy. The ruling came just hours before the OAA was set to host a national dialogue aimed at examining proposed changes to the country's electoral laws ahead of the 2027 general elections. The court ruled the event fell outside the OAA's legal mandate, effectively cancelling the gathering, which had invited civil society leaders, journalists, academics, and legal experts to participate in what the organizers described as an open forum to listen, reflect, and debate key issues of public interest. And Senegal, lawmakers have opened a critical debate that could send shockwaves through the country's political establishment. On Thursday, the National Assembly began discussions on whether to allow several former government ministers to stand trial before a special court, facing serious allegations of embezzlement. The charges stem from accusations that they misappropriated funds intended to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. Among those named is Mustafa Diop, the former Minister of Industrial Development and Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We will now be reviewing the newspaper front pages. And not only do we have our analyst in the studio, we want you to be a part of the show. All you need to do is to call the numbers on your TV screen to react to any of the stories that we'll be looking at this morning. And joining us is multi-award-winning global sensational journalist, the one and the only Habib Aruna.
Are you sure you are introducing Mr. Habib Aruna or Whiskey or David? But he's a star man. He's a star
journalist. A journalist of global rescue. Journalist by excellence and extraordinaire. You're very welcome. You're very, very welcome. All right, let's get into the meat of today's papers. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning, we can see the big story on the Nigerian Tribune. Foreign headers behind attacks on Communities Defense Headquarters says your 2025 ETME result consistent with 12-year JAM trend, according to JAM. How Oshun attained 7th position in national examination rating, Adeleke says. Tariff hike. Nigeria's internet users decline NCC report. Reps invite Finance Minister, CBN Governor, others over non-payment of contractors since 2024. Pope Leo XIV's era begins. Soludo says APGA has adopted Tinubu for 2027. Why share adoption? As President defends economic reform, Tinubu seeks confirmation of nominees for regional commissions. 2027, defunct CPC chieftains Abbas, Niger, Katsina, governors, Al-Makura, others pledge loyalty to Tinubu. In fact, I think this is a good story to start with. There's a lot of pledging of loyalty, endorsing for 2027. Beyond the APC, PDP members moving to the APC, we've also seen people who have all verbally given their support, Governor Omo. And now we have APGA, the governor of Anambra State, such that the president was even conferred a chieftaincy title. What do you make of that?
Well, we are seeing a season of surprises. And we are seeing, even though it's 2 years away for elections, we have seen that our political leaders have started to campaign implicitly for the next election.
They're thinking
and that is very, very disappointing. It's not good enough at all. Nigerians are yearning for good governance. Nigerians are yearning for government to take care of their welfare. Nigerians are yearning for government to take care of their security. But what is uppermost in the minds of these people, who are jesters, in my opinion, is how to get re-elected. You can see the desperation of Soludo, who came out yesterday telling the whole world that APGA has adopted the president. That him, the party, the leaders in Anambra State, and APGA. So I think it's not a good thing. It's not a good omen.
Mr. Abibara, can you break down the politics for us? Because I'm trying to understand why endorsing Mr. President or being in the good books of Abuja guarantees your political future if it's Anambrans that will still vote at the end of the day, if it's the people of your state that will still vote. Does the presidency in any way guarantee votes or give you electoral value? So why are they falling over themselves to endorse Mr. President for 2027?
That's a very good point. You see, there was a time I argued in one of my articles that the only way we can have good governance in Nigeria, the only way, the sine qua non for a good governance in Nigeria is to have free and fair elections. Once my vote and your vote can count, these people out there will be more circumspect in the way they behave. In the way they speak. Look at the way the former governor of Delta State spoke when he defected to.
With almost no regard to
that the people is the interest of the people of the state that they did that. I beg your pardon. We should have. If there is free and fair elections, right? there will be so much focus on ideology, on which are the people.
We have a celebrated daughter
because we don't have
Delta.
Because we don't have good governance, the focus is on Abuja, who we all know we direct the IG or the police to be on the corner of absolutely. So it's so funny. It's so funny that we have just seen this. We've heard this thing before. The First Republic was different. Second was different. This thing started during the Third Republic, and you see people in various states in Nigeria, various units, believing that their political force is tied to, support
and
for Abuja.
Slowly eroding the people factor.
So what we are saying is very important, because if there is fair election in Nigeria, they cannot try it. Yes, I'm telling you, that is the basics.
Beautiful daughter of Delta State, Delton. Do you think the defections were done in your interest? Because it said the governor said it was in your interest, the people's interest.
The famous Omami said, "If you ask me, now who I will ask."
A typical Delta. I'm telling you.
So Nigeria should insist on free and fair elections. So if that is done, you don't need to meet anybody to be elected.
So the concern now is, what really is the underlying motive for these people? Because we're not just seeing it on the state level. Look at Edo State House of Assembly.
Selfish interest.
House of Assembly has moved
so it's solely
APC rather.
The bottom line, absolutely, is on because these people are selfish.
So is it that they believe so strongly?
They're not doing it on your.
So are you being too moral? They say it's politics.
No. That is,
you're not expecting
that is not
politics.
That is selfishness. That is not pragmatism. That is opportunism at the highest level. So these people are not doing it for us. They're doing it for themselves.
Speaking in support of, for example, the Delta State Governor and the former Delta State Governor who have now moved to the APC, we did have Charles Anyagu talking about how nobody goes to elections to lose elections. You're going there because you want to win. And if you realize that the vehicle you are currently in will not help you win the elections, the next election, then you move to a vehicle that will help you.
Let me take your
a vehicle that doesn't have a faulty brain box.
Let me take your man back to a gentleman that was Nigeria's former president, who, when the results were coming out, he was being pressurized to say, no, this is not fair and fair. The man left the room, went straight to another room, and make a call to Buhari that you have won the election. I am ready to hand over to you. That is President Bola Tinubu. And this gentleman also said a few days ago that if people are joining the ruling party willingly, there will be no problem. But if they are being forced and manipulated to join the ruling party,
or joining for cover,
that's a problem. Yeah, Senator, he was there. So I think it will be dangerous as a precedent for the ruling party to be using all manner of tricks, in my view, to be cajoling, harassing, intimidating.
So you think it's the ruling party that is doing it?
No, I'm not saying so. I'm not telling you that. I'm just trying to put two and two together. That these guys are desperate, but something is going on. There's a big elephant behind the curtain, pushing button. And I think it is the president of this country, our future and democracy, for people to stand on their own, for parties to move on their own, not look at Joe. We are going to visit the state, a state visit. And the visit, the government is telling the whole world that they are adopting you. That to me is not good enough.
What about the chieftaincy title that they gave? Okay, so there's no political.
It's full of many things. A bunch of jokers.
The Jagaban title.
They give you title. What is the of that? I think the man went there to commission projects. Should have been there to talk about good governance, rule of law, and democracy. Not simplifying it to 27 and the idea of making Soludo to come back. Because what we are hearing from the grapevine is that Soludo will campaign, contest under Abga, and afterwards
you will move to APC.
We also defect, join the train of APC. So these things are not good enough for democracy. At the immediate, these guys are gaining, they are the ones benefiting. But in the long run, that's too bad.
I mean, we had a guest who said very soon, he also believes that with the way they are going to implode very, very soon. Because everybody starts going into
it's not impossible.
And then it's
because Nigeria is a very complex society. The complex society. And being a student of history and a political reporter, something tells me that something is strong somewhere, and that something will give up very soon.
Okay.
They're not careful.
All right, let's go to the Punch. The Punch newspaper. Newly acquired presidential jet flown to South Africa. Tinubu using leased aircraft for foreign and local travels, as what we're told, according to the Punch Insider. 2027, Al Makaru Masari mobilized CPC block for Tinubu. Nigeria taps additional $215 million World Bank loan for palliatives. After they paid the other one, they collected another one. This is smelling of something else. You know, Tinubu, Trump, world leaders congratulate American Pope. I'd like you to focus on this story. LP crisis. Akpabio turned to be as OT demands Abore's arrests. Akpabio had told Peter Obi yesterday in the Senate that he should go and fix the issues in LP. I don't know if you know about the speech Peter Obi made. Anyway, let's see.
Edward Clark
yes. I don't know if you aware of that speech. And then you got
and that was a fantastic speech.
Anyway, I don't know if we could play out Senator Akpabio's response to Peter Obi, so we'd like you to react to it since it's also in the papers, and we've touched on it earlier on when we started the show, but we'd like to get your own input into that. The Senate President had spoken and said that Mr. Peter Obi should go and fix the issues in Labour Party. That is that the same person that wants to run for, you know,
if you can't deal with small party, Labour parties have problems. How would they be able to deal with Boko Haram?
We need to remind Akpabio.
All right, let's take a look at the video.
Yeah.
And yet, when somebody makes a statement that the labors of our heroes pass, I in vain, I beg to disagree. Let our brother Peter Obi show leadership like Edwin Clark did by resolving first the crisis in the Labour Party. For a man who wants to run Nigeria, you have one of the smallest parties in Nigeria, and you cannot even resolve the crisis in that Labour Party. Is it the crisis of Boko Haram that you will come and resolve in Nigeria? I would like us to be known for what we did when we had the opportunities.
What was your reaction to that?
I think it should be expected from Akpabio. Obi is just like Hamlet and the Prince of Shakespeare. Without Hamlet, you cannot act the Prince. Labour Party was not as formidable as it is today, or in 2023 elections without Obi. It was Peter Obi that made the Labour Party, right? When he left the PDP out of annoyance to contest under a different auspices political party. It was Obi that made the Labour Party to be popular. I also told you guys on this program that the last election, presidential elections, just in front of your office here, we are used to vote. Many first voters came solely because of Peter Obi. I voted for President Tinubu, but I knew there and then that there was problem. So Obi is too much of a character. Obi is too much of a decent human being. And I've told you guys here that I've known him before now, when he was governor.
Yeah, you said so.
You know, so it's not just doing it as what Obi said, both in US and on that day, memorial of Chief Edwin Clark, the respected Edwin Clark, was to me in line with realities. What is that? Was in line with reality.
So do you believe that the labors of our Labour Party are in vain?
The crisis Labour Party was not caused by Obi. It will be difficult by Obi to resolve it.
Alone.
Obi is not chief in council or chief of council in Labour Party. Obi is chief in council. And you see, let me tell you, any party that Obi goes to today, that party will be formidable. Because of the crowd, because of the people that Obi has enticed, this way of life, this philosophy and ideology. So, Akpabio should be reminded that is in no best position to lecture Nigerians on Obi's capacity. You know, I'm not in the Labour Party But I believe strongly that just like in the PDP, the crisis in labor, was caused by outsiders.
All right.
The Akpampa, the Abure, and the Nana Usman. There's a court judgment, typical judgment.
Nana Usman have problem inside.
Pardon?
Nana Usman so has problem.
Why can they obey? Why can they obey it?
Okay.
All these factions should not have a reason if they are people that believe in the future of this country.
So let's move from Labour Party now to talk about the core of what Obi said that is making all of them react. He said that the labor of our heroes past are in vain. Do you think he should have said that? Do you think it's true, or do you think
you look at what Obi said, just opposite with what the ADB president Adesina said a few weeks ago too, that our GDP during independence is far above what we are saying now. You'll be forced to put those things on the table and arrive at the conclusion that the effort of our heroes past, that their efforts has been in vain. You cannot be them. You cannot beat a child and tell him not to cry. For goodness sake, they are saying what is on ground. What in reality, I think the federal government has a duty, to try and do something about these concerns raised by eminent Nigerians, rather than replying them and trying to castigate what they are saying. The life of Akpabio should have put that issues on the table for the Senate to debate it and find a way out. Nigeria, that's insecurity. People cannot see that you are close. That is misgovernance. And it's total lack of National Assembly led by Akpabio because they cannot checkmate the excesses of the executive. What people are saying. And it's not addressing those things. It's talking about Obi's not capable of resolving the crisis in labor.
All right. I think
we know that those crises were caused by outsiders.
All right. We have a call coming in. Let's take the call. Good morning. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Hello, good morning.
All right, we'll hope that you can call back to reconnect.
The presidency's response to AFDB boss was he sounded like Peter Obi. Peter Obi now doubled down on that during the Edwin Clark Memorial and sounded like Peter Obi gave them another one, with this heroes past comment. But still on Labour Party, just yesterday we read a report that Abure decided to suspend all the big wigs, even their lone governor. But now the governor has fired back. Imagine they issue a suspension letter. You said, no, this is not even a suspension. They should arrest you for issuing that. I mean, it might sound like comedy, but what will it take to resolve the crisis in Labour Party? The courts don't seem to have resolved it. And they always say go to court. But the court seems to have even complicated. Even a papa that was hiding somewhere came out to say it
consistently. I look at things beyond the surface. You don't look at things contextually. What you have is the pretext. What is the context here? Labour Party became very prominent in the last election when Obi defeated Tinubu in Lagos. So a very big and strong Labour Party is a threat to the ruling party.
All right, let's
simple.
Let's hear from Ayeni.
Who is now pushing? Who is calling confusion in Labour Party? Ask yourselves.
All right, let's hear from Ayeni, who's calling from Lagos. Good morning, Ayeni. Please go ahead with your comment. Hello, are you there?
New Central, Ayeni calling from Lagos.
Yes, please. Can you speak up? You sound faint.
Yeah, but what is there is that we forget to first look at the roots of Nigeria problem. Hello? Root of Nigeria problem. The root of Nigeria problem is not. It does not start today. It started when we don't have leaders, but we have rulers who do not look beyond. We have, for example, we have four years development plan. While people plan for 50, 100 years. So are they leaders? So what they're saying is that it's not the present administration will blame. We now look solution to the problems. When many of our leaders who are not there go around to talk about the situation, they only castigate the same problem by the government. But tell us the solution What can we do to move it forward? Not inciting people that they should, keep their sympathy so that they can go on the street and protest. What do we want to gain from that? So all of us, you think, what can we do to move the country forward? Not that we just go and be talking here of the country, this and that, this and that. What do you have to offer? Areas of assistance so that we can move forward.
Thank you so much, Sayeni, for calling. He's talking about way forward as regards just ranting and complaining.
And now it's not just this administration, it's a leadership problem.
Okay. Absolutely. Let's go to The Guardian very quickly before you respond. I know you were talking on OB, but let's look at this. The Guardian has on the front page, the Senate passes tax reform bills, meets reps for final draft. I'd like you to focus on that. The tax reform bills. Tax reform bills. Yeah. Finally, 4 have been passed. They dropped the VAT being increased to 10% to recall that.
For local government.
Yes, it was the former administration of Muhammadu Buhari that increased it to 7.5. And like Benga said, more money for the local government. The federal government now reducing, taking just 10%, and saying that the local government can now reinforce their boards, tax reform boards.
But I'm surprised that people are not talking about, but not raising their voice on this tax reform something. People are not too sensitive because taxes is very, very critical to the economy. I'm not against it. I'm not against this issue of like people that are earning more to pay more. Not the masses that are not getting anything from it. People that are pay as you go. But at the same time, there is a Supreme Court judgment that said
local government
should receive the allocation directly from the federal government. That's not yet been implemented. The governors have made sure that this thing will not be implemented. They're very, very powerful. The emperors, the governors. So these guys will make it difficult for the local government, who is under their control, to collect money from directly from the federal government. That is one. It has it from bill. Suddenly, the voice of reservation that we are hearing from the north has died down. What is going on? And the Senate yesterday passed it. The Senate is not saying that there will be a conference meeting between them and the House of Reps. So I wanted to see it. But I knew, I've been issued, that this thing will pass. With this, given this, the stance of this and precedence of the National Assembly, led by Padio, it will pass. But how far will it be in the interest of Nigerians? That's what
But some elements of it, they propose a 10% VAT, and that didn't pass. It's currently 7.5, so it remains at 7.5.
There's a compromise.
Will that have any adverse effects on revenue generation?
No. The objective of government has been met. What the thing was introduced before this has been met. So those are some of the issues that were raised by some people in the north and some in the south, which to me has been.
So it's a win for the Tinubu administration.
It's a win, absolutely, it's a big win. But I always believe that there's a need for tax reform in Nigeria.
So another one we should look at is electoral reform. When is that going to happen?
INEC hasn't even said anything.
But I don't think these people will do that.
There are petitions flying around.
They cannot do anything against
activists.
I've not seen any Gorbachev in the political system. A Gorbachev that worked for the collapse of his own government. I've not seen it in Nigeria. And I may never come.
All right.
But it's very, very important for us to have electoral reform, to have free and fair elections. That is the signal, I repeat, for good governance in Nigeria.
Right.
Once they know that you can vote tomorrow and remove them, they do the right thing. But if they know that you are not consequential,
they can manipulate the system.
Absolutely. So
impunity is our biggest challenge because we know that actions don't always have consequences. Absolutely. Let's look at our final paper, The Punch. So many headlines here. On the front page of The Punch, refitting and repainting newly acquired presidential jet flown to South Africa.
As the patronizing Nigeria First policy, has this started? But we didn't check on this. We didn't touch on this story earlier, but let's talk about it. Newly acquired presidential jet flown to South Africa.
In the same week, leased aircraft for foreign and local travel.
In the same week, the presidency touted Nigeria First, that we should purchase Nigeria First. What happened to all the painters in Lekki, Ajah side?
Why are you going to Lekki Aja? Why didn't you go to Ogbomosho or Osun State? What?
Is this something we can't do in Nigeria? Well, where did Mr. Hadi Srika remove the Ethiopian airline paint to slap Nigeria Air?
And where is Hadi Srika?
Can I just run through the report by the Punch? It says at least 20.03 billion naira was spent on the maintenance and operations of the presidential air fleet from July 2023 to December 2024. This is according to the reports by the Punch. This was as the new presidential jet purchased last year has been flown to South Africa for refurbishment and upgrades. I believe this is the same presidential jet that caused a lot of controversy. When people were saying, how can you ask us to fasten our seatbelts, to cut expenses, and you're not cutting expenses?
And it's needing painting. Are they flying into bad road?
What you get is speculations and people saying a lot of things. If you don't put the facts on the table,
effective communication.
Yes, absolutely. The government should always come clear to the people. They are buying an aircraft. How old is the aircraft? Is it a brand new one? How much will it cost the taxpayers? These are the things that Nigeria want to know. But when you are doing things through the back door, and they get to know, people will not be angry. People will not be happy in the midst of poverty.
Olive, you just discovered something. Please share with us.
So, according to this report by The Punch, findings from their correspondence from GovSpend, which is a civic tech platform that tracks and analyzes federal government spending, revealed that for 2024, the payout amounted to 14.15 billion naira, representing 71% of the allocations for the fleet in the 2024 fiscal year. Most of the disbursements were labeled Forex Transit Funds, usually funds allocated for foreign exchange requirements to facilitate international transactions and engagements. Now, for the presidential air fleet, such funds cover expenses related to operations abroad, including fuel purchases. But in July 2023, 1.52 billion was disbursed in two tranches of 846 million naira and 675 million naira for presidential air fleet Forex Transit Funds. The following month, 3.1 billion naira was disbursed in three tranches for the same item. 388 million naira, 2 billion naira, and 713 million naira for the same item. In November of that same year, 1.26 billion naira was released.
This is what you call one beer.
Well,
I'm tired.
I think. Anyway, let's get your final reaction on this.
No, in a country that is still borrowing billions, that is using billions to repay, to service debt. I don't think we can afford this kind of luxury. We cannot afford it. And the government should not take people for granted. The government should live beyond. No, they should not be living above what we are earning. This is not good.
Which is a problem.
Absolutely.
Well, talking about another problem, we'd like you to remain with us. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, let's go to the drawing board. Let's look at a major problem that Nigerians will need to deal with, which is our medical sector. Affordable. Yes, affordable health. We'll be right back. Stay with us. All right, let's go straight to the drawing board right now. We're looking at Nigeria's healthcare sector, which happens to be a major challenge. We're going to focus on the public healthcare sector, not forgetting to also look at the private, the system entirely. I don't know if we still have Mr. Bibaruna, who's here with us. And of course, the usual two musketeers, and not three, because I'm not part of them. So what we're going to do is let's break it down. There's a statement, I think, Olive, we always highlight this once in a while. I remember you also say that if you're sick, if you're ill, rather, it's a thin line between one sickness away from you going bankrupt and doing what? You also losing your life. Just a thin line. And today we're going to take a look at that. So we'll break it down. Hopefully we have the graphics on screen as well. First things first, when you go into a hospital, the first thing you do is to get a registration card. Did you know that today in government hospitals, registration card has risen to about 3,000 naira to 5,000 naira? Did you know that? It's risen very, very much in government hospitals as well. And then, did you also know that in private hospitals, the prices has also gone up? It is now between 10,000 naira to about, some hospitals. Private hospitals. So from public, we're looking at, it used to be before, you also have 1,000 naira. If you remember, you could walk into a healthcare sector, you get about 1,000 bucks for registration card. it's risen to about 1,500. And what we hear in some hospitals, government-owned hospitals, is about 3,000 naira now.
So this is for registration?
Yes, registration only. You pay 1.5 here. They'll tell you, okay, go and pay 1,000 naira as well for something else. By the time you sum it up, you're looking at about 3,000 naira.
But it's a one-time fee, right?
Yes, it's a one-time fee, registration. And then you also have the next step, which is you now have to see the doctor. So consultancy is also different. You pay extra for consultancy, and that's another challenge. So for public hospitals, for some of them, the consultancy also ranges between that same price of 2,000 naira to 3,000 naira. Now, what we're trying to say is if you're using the public healthcare system, as in Nigeria, you should have a budget of about 4,000 to 5,000 naira budgeted. You've not started treatment yet.
Just to say,
for them to do the consultation.
Just for that. Yeah. Whereas before, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, you're looking at about 2,500 naira, and you have the market women whom you would see flocking the hospitals. They're able to pay easily 1,800, 2,000, but now it's higher. The same thing for private hospitals. It's kind of like doubled. So for private hospitals, just looking at consultancy alone, I'm talking about 15,000, 20,000 naira to 50,000, depending on the hospital. For the the bigger hospitals,
because my hospital is 40,000 naira.
Yes, you're looking at 50,000 naira and so on.
Doctor, see doctor.
Yes.
So if you have a headache now, you just want to.
If for the fact that the doctor is sitting down to have a conversation with, and I haven't been to the hospital in like a year. The last time I went was for my checkup, and that one was a different one. But one-on-one consultation, as at last year, was 40,000. So maybe it's like 50.
So now. You can imagine that. We've never even talked about medical treatment. Now, if we go down to the medical treatment aspect, they will tell you need to run tests and so on. To run a malaria test now is going to about, for some hospitals, from 20,000 naira to 35,000 naira. In the public hospitals, you're talking about from 7,500 to about 10,000. So between that range. Now, what we're trying to say is if Mrs. Kemi is sick now, Iyakemi, let's use a general language, Iyakemi is sick. Mrs. Iyakemi before will possibly depend on, my mark is almost finished then, will depend on the 10,000 naira to use, to carry on her health checkup and so on. But now she would have to spend more than that 10,000 naira because she would pay for consultation, she would also pay for registration, and then she would pay for treatment. That has to do with just tests. Now, what about medication? Medications is also expensive. A malaria drug, I don't know if we've gotten malaria drug recently, it's now expensive. Before, you get a malaria drug for 800 naira, 900 naira, 1,200. That's the last time I bought. But now you're talking about almost 3,800 to 4,200.
Depending on where you buy.
And that's exactly what they tell you, that's the latest price. And therefore, you cannot even just depend on that. So where are we going to? Let's benchmark all of this with our minimum wage. If the minimum wage is 70,000 naira, ladies and gentlemen, it simply means that if Adiyakemi goes to a public hospital, a healthcare, she would have to pay close to about 4,000 naira just to do the basic registration and consultancy. Then if she has to run a test, she'll pay 7,000 naira, which is a total of about, let's say, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,000. Then she has to buy drugs, which would cost about roughly 5,000 naira. So she'll be spending 16,000 naira to take care of herself alone. And if she has 3 children, and they also have to go through that process, multiply 16,000 naira times 3.
Especially when, with children, when one has to give the ripple effect, all of them fall ill.
And then some of the consequences of this, it will lead to more self-medication and proliferation of
medicine that you can't even guarantee how helpful some of them are.
So it's analysis based on people that stay in the city.
Now that's a conversation.
Yes, because people that stay in the village, like my mother in the village, is nearing 80, 79, 80 now. I know how much I spend on her every month.
You see that?
And then she falls sick. I know what I said to my nephew, to take her to the Tuauchi, to the hospital. A lot of money.
Thank you for bringing that angle, because there's also the age angle to this.
That's another thing.
It's very, very important. And that is why in most countries, most advanced countries, not even advanced countries, even in Africa, they don't joke with the seniors. In some of these countries, they not only cheaper drugs, at times medication to take is free. Health services is free. But in Nigeria, I don't know what they're doing about it. don't want to have someone that is sick to visit Lagos General Hospital.
I'm glad that you brought this perspective, because at the end of the day, when it comes to conversations about healthcare, even health insurance, in fact, that should be your next.
That should be our next. So let's see how much health insurance costs. But this is where we're going to end it. We're just bringing this to the drawing board for you to see. Next week, we're going to expand fully on it and possibly have a medical expert to join us as we look at how much Nigerians should be bracing up to spend when it comes to their health. I want to say thank you so much for watching. Thanks, guys, for being here. It's like I'm actually leading, the whole thing.
Well done. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here.
All right, that's it on the show. It's Friday. Have a good weekend, right? Yeah.
All right. Have a good weekend, everyone. See you on Monday. We leave you now in the hands of Jasiri at 10 a.m.